We're here in the basement of the Warsaw City Museum. That is a basement which remained while the rest of the old town had been destroyed during the Second World War. And above us is the reconstructed old town of Warsaw, the Rynek, as they call it, the Stary Rynek. And it's important to note a couple of things before we start. We've seen, in a previous program, we've seen film of Warsaw before and Warsaw after the destruction of the war. But it's important to know that popular consciousness divides Warsaw's history and traditions and buildings into those that were built before and after World War II. More than 70%, some say as high as 85% of the buildings were destroyed. And here we have a map. What is this, a graph?
You're having the founding of the new city. So the old town is saturated, you need to expand, you need to have new houses built outside of the city walls. And this is how the new town is created. This is like 1408 that's presented in here on the timeline. And also, which is a very nice thing, is that along with the time, you're also, except from the notes informing about the major events, you're having a nice thing because you're having the map, the visualization of the area of the city. So you have the white one presenting how the city looks today, right? This. Mm-hmm. And the little black dot would symbolize
the original?
In that very moment, how big the city would be. So it is 1621, you can see that the city is tiny.
So it's just a dot on the Wisła?
Mm-hmm. Next to, yeah.
Yeah, and next to the Vistula River?
Yeah.
All right, so...
And then look at the development rate. In here you already have a nice rectangular shape, and out there in the 20th century, the acceleration is massive.
Yeah. So here we have a timeline of the development of the growth of the city.
Also, the most important thing that to be marked on this timeline is this. Right? Even you can see that there has been a lot of touching done because the dot is already scratched a bit. So this is the Second World War. You can see that we've dropped from 1.3 million to 162,000 people.
So there were 1.3 million people in Warsaw.
Starting point of the war.
In 1939. Hmm. And then, by the end of the war, there were only 160,000.
Yes.
Around, I mean, but those people weren't even in the city. They were just probably around the city.
As you said, survivors.
Survivors of some kind.
162. That's maybe 10% of the previous value.
Yeah. So people, if they don't, it's very hard, I think, for people to understand the dislocation of the war and what that did to the population of an ancient city. It completely changed its demographics, its population. So the rebuilding, this is the point, isn't it, that we're seeing here. The rebuilding of the city was not just a physical rebuilding, but it was a rebuilding of the population, and actually the spirit and soul of the city itself.
You may call it as a fresh start.
Yeah, fresh start. Stay with us on Poland Daily Travel. We're going through the Warsaw City Museum with me and Peter Chemachowski. Welcome back to Poland Daily Travel. I'm here with Peter Chemachowski. And we're talking to you today from the Warsaw City Museum about the history of Warsaw. You know, here we have a map which is showing the boundaries of Poland over the centuries. And it's important to know that the Polish capital is about 110 kilometers east of the actual geometric center of Poland, which is pretty lucky considering how much the boundaries have shifted over time. In the early days, Warsaw was not even within the borders of the Polish state. It was in the Duchy of Mazovia. That was a loose confederation with Poland. But we can see there's been a lot of changes, haven't there, Peter, from 1339 as we see the Duchy of Mazovia, which is just adjacent to Poland, a smaller Poland, centered around Krakow. Isn't that right? Yeah,
yes,
that's
well,
correct. Yeah.
Yes, well, the Polish lands were shifting, and the ending evolution, the ending state, is actually quite recent, because it's only dating back to around the end of the Second World War. I can confirm everything that you've said by far. So Warsaw, basically as a city, is outside of Poland as a beginning creation. Over time, the Mazovia region is being swallowed by the Polish lands, the Polish country, the Polish administration. And then...
but look at this change here. In 1569. This is important. This is really important because a lot of people are not aware that Poland at one time was the largest country in Europe.
Yes.
People don't know that. And in fact, I didn't know it when I first visited Poland. I should have done more reading.
I can tell you that, unfortunately, these are very old times.
1569 is this rendition,
As the sign says.
But look at Vilnius right up here. So Vilnius is up here, and Krakow, still the capital. Warsaw here, somewhere, not quite, a little bit closer to Krakow.
An interesting insight, because of the fact that Krakow is so very, very far away from Vilnius, and Vilnius and Poland, as we have discussed in one of the previous series, are having a political union since the year of precisely 1569. Then
it's written right there. It's easy to see.
This distance is massive. If you were to jump on a horse and get from Vilnius to Krakow, it's at least 3 months to cover the distance one way, then 3 months to participate in the parliament session, and then additional
3 months.
3 months
on horse.
From
Vilnius to Warsaw. And let alone Krakow.
I mean, I must say, I did not make it myself.
But would you like to try?
I'm not certain.
I don't think I have 3 months to do that, although it would be fun to travel at least a couple of days on a horse.
Like the gentleman from the 16th century. But an additional insight beyond the distance, because this is the main reason why the capital cities moved to Warsaw. But leaving that, because of the fact that Poland is having such a vast area, then it accommodates different types of people, not only looking at the perspective of the religion, but also looking at the perspective of the professions, but also the culture. So in here we would have the guys called the Tartars. They would be the Muslim people more likely, right?
Tartars who came from the east and were consistently attacking Poland, the remnants of Genghis Khan's group, right?
Yes, so what can we say?
To some extent.
Unfortunately, you're right. So later on, because of the fact that we used to be in here, then we are having the Turkish, the Ottoman, as it says in English, empire having a revisiting action undertaken. Not cool, but well, the action has consequences.
These are intercontinental or intercontinental ructions between Asia and Europe, we can say, that have gone on for 1,000 years.
As far, I mean, that's...
but look at this, say the Kingdom of Prussia, 1796. Poland was split at this time. I guess anyone who reads anything about Polish history knows that Poland was split up and divided into 3 parts. One controlled by the Russians, one controlled by the Prussians, one controlled by the Habsburg, the Austrian Empire. And we can see here, this is the Kingdom of Prussia. And at this point, no Poland.
No Poland.
Still a Warsaw, but no Poland.
A very, very tough period of Polish history. Starting just, it's mentioning 1796. In fact, in 1795, this is already the time that Poland is under the division. There is no Poland on the map. But even though the Polish lands are not on the map mentioned, and the Polish people still live in here, we are struggling to keep our national identity. And after 123 years, fortunately, as you can see, 1939 and further, we are coming back to the map.
The country is reunited. And then it changes again substantially there, because between the war, you had, by the Treaty of Versailles in 1919, you had a Poland created with a corridor, as we can see here, a corridor which ran to Gdansk. It was called the Polish Corridor, I believe, was it not?
I'm not aware what was the particular name of it, but yeah,
that's what they called it when I studied history. I didn't know that history, because the history of World War I and World War II, they used to teach a lot. We see that Warsaw continues to be the capital, and of course, then the boundaries were shifted. You had this vast area here. Oh, this is amazing, the foundation below me. Yeah. So I'll just stand right on this old foundation and bend down. You can see that Poland stuck way up into Lithuania. It went way east. These were the famous Polish marshes, which are now in Ukraine and Belarus and in Lithuania, and but mostly down in this area, the Pripyat River, right? The marshes. Used to be part of. Used to be part of.
You're getting better.
Am I getting better?
Yeah.
Do I know something?
With Polish.
Okay, and then Poland was, of course, moved to the west, and we have modern-day Poland here, which was created after the Second World War by treaty, but was then controlled once again by the neighbors to the east.
What can we say? This is why.
But not anymore.
Let's say, filling up the information. So as you can see, this part is something that has not been Polish from the very, very centuries.
Over the centuries.
Over the centuries.
Yeah.
We are having, as I can confirm, Poland moved a bit to the west. This is the whereabouts of the Odra River that we right now have within.
On the border, yeah.
On the borderline.
With, I mean, you can still. Yeah,
with the Germans here.
Yeah. So it all moved to
West.
Germany,
Yeah.
and now all that other stuff is beyond the borders of the European Union.
Ukraine and Belarus already.
Yeah. Okay. That's a little bit of history of what happened in Poland over the centuries. Warsaw stayed. Warsaw hasn't gone anywhere, but Poland went away and changed its shape many times over the centuries. Okay, stay with us. Poland Daily Travel, we'll be back with another exciting segment.